Hey folks, welcome back. So this week we are starting on doing kind of the prep for the pads that the waterers are going to set on for the cattle. So basically what that is going to involve is going in first with the skid steer and making the pads, the area where it's going to go, flat. And when I say flat, if we look at my phone here, you would say that this is flat, but right now it's not level, but it's still flat. So all we're doing is we're kind of making the area fairly flat, trying to get level-ish, but it doesn't need to be perfectly level, and we don't necessarily want it to be perfectly level either. That way there's some amount of slope in there that the water can drain off through. After that's done, we can trench into the middle of this area, and then that is where we'll bring the water line up through to connect into the waterer. Now, when we get ready to put these waterers in, we'll do a little bit of final grading, get everything really smoothed out. And then where the water itself is, that actually does need to be level. That way the float and everything that's inside of there works properly. But the rest of the pad doesn't really matter. So once again, kind of like with doing all the trenching, I'm not going to show all of the pads that I got leveled off, and I'm not going to show all of the trenching into the pads and all that sort of stuff. This first one that we've got here is down near the well that's on the south side. And now here we are south of the middle woods, and we already did a little bit of trenching into here when we were doing the main line. It would have worked better if we hadn't have brought that line kind of in towards where the pad's going to be. But what we're doing here is my dad's using the Mini to kind of dig up the roots around this cedar tree, because that's within where our pad is going to sit. So once he got the roots dug up, then I was going to go over and try pushing it over with the skid steer, because that's where I'm sitting right at the moment. However, it didn't work out quite that well, because as you'll see here in just a second, I kind of blew a main hydraulic line on the skid steer. Now, unfortunately, this was not one that was just a easy, pull it off and take it down to hose house, have them make me up a new one, bring it back, install it, and I'm back to work again. Because while one end of this hose was fairly accessible if you flip the cab up, the other end was back behind the right track assembly. So basically that entire thing would have to come off that the track rolls on. You have to bring that whole thing out. Then you can get to the other end of this hydraulic hose to disconnect it and replace it. And I don't really have the equipment to do that, and especially it's not something that I would want to try doing out in the middle of the farm. So that got hauled off to the service facility, and fortunately it didn't take too long. It took maybe 4 days, 3-4 days, something like that, for him to get around to doing it, and for me to go up and then bring it back down here. But that was a little bit of a problem that we had there that set us back a little bit with working on these pads. So another part of these pads is that we've got a valve assembly that goes in each one of these. And essentially what it's going to do is it takes the main line that we have, which is 1 1/4 inch, and it reduces it down to 3/4. And then you have a shutoff valve that is in each one of these, and then that goes to a T, and then the T has a drain valve on it, so that way we can drain the line that goes to the tank, because in the winter, if you have a tank that isn't getting used, it can be a good idea to drain the line out. Then the tank itself has a drain on it as well, so that way you can just empty all that out and you don't have to worry about it freezing. And then that continues on to another T, and then part of that T goes to a frost-free hydrant, which we're going to have one of those at each one of the cattle water stations. And then the other part of that T goes to the actual cattle water. So we got a whole bunch of fittings that are at each one of these cattle waterers. And the easiest way to do it, of course, is just to get that assembled ahead of time. Use the vise to hold it in place so that while you're putting on all the pipe tape and the dope and stuff that goes on there, that it's holding it nice and secure. And so I spent quite a few hours putting these things together. And they aren't all the same either, because just with the configurations, some of them you want the T going one way or another, and so some of these are kind of custom done for each of those spots. Now, on some of these ones that are lower down, kind of in the valley part here, down closer to the creek, we actually are having to put pressure reducing valves on them because the frost-free hydrants and as well as the actual cattle waters can only take so many PSI before you're going to blow out the valve or something on them. And with having around 350 feet of elevation difference between where the cistern's at and where these waterers are, we're getting a fair amount of pressure in these lines. And so that's one more thing that we had to add into, I think, either 3 or 4 of the assemblies that we put in here had to put in a pressure reducing valve so we aren't messing up any of our equipment that's getting hooked up to it. So here we're showing kind of putting in one of these assemblies and what all is getting connected to it. And so like I said, first off we got to get the trenches dug, and one side is going over to what's going to come up underneath the water, and that's where the black pipe is, and that's a double wall culvert, and that's NRCS specs, and it's supposed to help keep the line from freezing that's coming up through there. That goes down around like 4 feet down into the ground, and that's just a 3/4 inch line. And then the other side you can see goes over to the frost-free hydrant, and then of course you want your hydrant and this the culvert to be fairly plumb, fairly straight up and down. And so I would be kind of holding on to that. I'd have a level there, and then my dad was filling in around those with the excavator. And it takes a little while to do each one of those, and of course we're making sure that we aren't getting any rocks on top of the lines, you know, same sort of stuff, because we don't want those wearing any holes into those and creating leaks down the road. And then this is just a quick shot of the pad that's all the way at the back of the farm in the back pasture. And this this back pasture is getting a little bit overgrown because cattle haven't been back there because there is not a fence on that side of the MVP right away. So it's kind of just gone wild over the last few years, unfortunately. But that'll need a little bit of work here in the near future to get that back in shape. And here's just sort of a close-up of how the lines and everything lay in there before we start filling it in. Now you'll see here at the end we are actually using the skid steer to fill in the trench instead of the excavator. And that is because, somewhat ironically, my dad blew a line in the excavator in the exact same spot that I blew a line in the skid steer. I mean, it's almost sitting in the exact same spot. And our rental was almost up at that point. We'd gotten everything done that we really needed to do with the excavator, because we can fill back in with the skid steer. It's not quite as easy because you can't just dump a little bit of dirt right around in certain areas that you want, but it's still very doable. So we're still actually waiting on them to come back and pick the equipment up, and then they'll just take that back and they'll fix the line and everything there. But it was kind of funny that it blew a hydraulic line in the exact same spot that the skid steer did. I think I need to start avoiding that area with equipment. I'm starting to wonder if that area might have a curse on it or something. But anywho, so we've got pretty much all these areas done. The next step with this is to start adding gravel in, and then that way it just doesn't get all mucked up from the cattle walking around in there, and if it rains, you know, it just gives a nice non-vegetative, is that a word? Non-vegetation growing around in there. That way it'll stay somewhat clean and hopefully not too muddy. Then the water itself will set on top of a concrete pad, and that's a pre-formed sort of thing that we'll be getting, and then that'll just set in there, and then the water will set on top of that, and it'll make for a nice solid base for the waterers to set on. Now that is going to be a whole video onto its own. Now I'm not entirely sure when that's going to come out, because we're going to have to work around, you know, having rain and stuff, and being able to have the guy with the dump truck bringing the gravel in be able to get up to these individual water areas. And of course, if it's raining real hard, there's no way he's going to be able to get that dump truck up there. So this stage may take a little bit longer to get completed, just because there's a little bit more logistics involved with getting it done. So I think that is it for this week's video. Hopefully you guys found it somewhat interesting or entertaining, or maybe even informative if you're thinking about doing something similar to this. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.